Emily Carter sat alone on a worn wooden bench at the small railway station in the fading light of autumn. Her suitcase rested at her feet, almost empty except for a few clothes and a faded photograph of her late parents. 3 days earlier, she had lost everything. The cafe where she had worked for 6 years had closed overnight after the owner declared bankruptcy. Unable to pay rent, she was evicted from her tiny apartment. Friends who once promised they would always be there suddenly stopped answering her calls. With only $18 left in her purse and nowhere to go, she bought the cheapest train ticket she could find, hoping that somehow another town might offer another chance. But after the train was cancelled because of a landslide farther down the tracks, the station emptied, leaving Emily stranded. The cold evening wind swept through the platform, and for the first time in her life she admitted to herself that she had completely lost hope. Tears rolled silently down her cheeks as she stared at the empty rails, wondering how life could change so cruelly in just a few days. She whispered to herself, "Maybe this is where my story ends." At that very moment, an old red pickup truck pulled into the station parking lot. A tall rancher wearing a weathered cowboy hat stepped out, carrying 2 paper bags of groceries. Beside him skipped a cheerful little girl no older than 7 with golden curls tucked beneath a straw hat. The little girl suddenly stopped walking when she noticed Emily crying. She tugged on her father's jacket. "Daddy," she whispered, "that lady looks sad." The rancher turned his head and quietly observed the young woman sitting alone. His name was Jacob Hayes, owner of a cattle ranch nearly 20 miles outside town. He believed in minding his own business, but he had also taught his daughter Lily that kindness was never wasted. Lily didn't wait for permission. She ran over holding a freshly baked cinnamon roll wrapped in paper. "Excuse me," she said softly. "Daddy says people shouldn't cry on an empty stomach." Emily looked up, surprised by the innocent smile. She tried to refuse, embarrassed, but Lily simply placed the warm pastry into her hands. "Please," she insisted. "It's my favorite, so I know it'll help." Emily couldn't remember the last time someone had shown her such simple kindness. She thanked the little girl, and the first genuine smile touched her face in days. Jacob approached slowly. "Looks like you've had a rough week," he said gently. Emily nodded without hiding the truth. She explained everything: the lost job, the eviction, the cancelled train, and having nowhere left to go. Jacob listened quietly without interrupting. When she finished, he scratched his beard thoughtfully before saying, "Our ranch has an old guest cabin. It's nothing fancy, but it's warm. You can stay until you figure things out." Emily immediately shook her head. "I can't accept that from strangers." Jacob smiled. "Everyone is a stranger until someone chooses to be kind." Lily grabbed Emily's hand. "Please come. I always wanted someone to help me feed the horses." After a long hesitation, Emily accepted. The drive to the ranch took nearly half an hour through golden fields and rolling hills glowing beneath the sunset. When they arrived, she was amazed by the peaceful beauty surrounding the wooden farmhouse, grazing horses, and wide-open sky. Jacob showed her the small cabin beside the barn. It was simple but cozy, with a fireplace, clean blankets, and a small kitchen. That night Emily slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. The next morning she woke early to the sound of horses neighing. She stepped outside and found Lily struggling to carry a bucket of feed. Emily hurried over to help, and together they laughed as curious goats surrounded them. Jacob noticed from a distance that Emily worked naturally around animals. Over breakfast he learned that Emily had grown up on her grandfather's small farm before moving to the city years earlier. "Looks like ranch life remembers you," Jacob joked. Days turned into weeks. Emily never expected free charity, so she insisted on helping with chores. She cleaned the guest cabin, cooked meals, repaired broken fences, organized paperwork in Jacob's small office, and even helped bottle homemade honey produced by the ranch's beehives. Her hard-working spirit impressed everyone. Lily quickly became attached to Emily, following her everywhere and asking endless questions about books, flowers, and stars. One rainy afternoon, while organizing dusty boxes in the barn, Emily discovered old financial records showing the ranch had quietly been losing money for several years. She approached Jacob carefully. "I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I think I can help." Emily had taken business courses while working at the cafe and suggested creating a website, offering horseback riding weekends, selling organic honey online, and opening a small farm shop. Jacob admitted he knew nothing about computers, but he trusted Emily enough to let her try. Over the next few months Emily worked tirelessly. She built a simple website using free software, photographed the ranch, advertised local riding lessons, and shared videos of Lily feeding rescued animals. The response surprised everyone. Families from nearby towns began visiting every weekend. Their homemade honey sold out. Local schools booked educational farm tours. The ranch, once struggling to survive, slowly became profitable again. As Christmas approached, Jacob gathered the ranch workers in the old barn for a celebration. Snowflakes drifted softly outside while a fire crackled inside. In front of everyone, Jacob handed Emily a small envelope. Confused, she opened it and found legal documents. "What's this?" she asked. Jacob smiled warmly. "It's ownership papers for the guest cabin and 5 acres beside it." Emily stared in disbelief. "There must be some mistake." "There isn't," Jacob replied. "When you arrived at that station, you thought your life was over. But you didn't just change your own future, you saved this ranch, gave my daughter someone she loves like family, and reminded all of us that hope can return when least expected." Emily burst into tears. "I don't know what to say." Lily hugged her tightly. "You can say you're staying forever." Everyone laughed, but Emily couldn't stop crying. They weren't tears of sadness anymore. They were tears of gratitude. Several months later, Emily officially opened a small bakery and cafe on the ranch using recipes passed down from her grandmother. Travelers stopped by for homemade pies, fresh bread, and coffee before exploring the countryside. The cafe became famous throughout the county, and visitors often asked how the business had begun. Emily would simply smile and point toward the old railway station visible in the distance. "It all started there," she would say. "That's where I thought I had reached the end of my journey." One spring afternoon she returned to that same station carrying a basket of warm cinnamon rolls. She noticed a young man sitting alone with a backpack and tears in his eyes. Without hesitation, she walked over, handed him a pastry, and smiled. "You look like you've had a hard day," she said gently. The young man looked surprised. "How did you know?" Emily smiled, remembering the little girl who had once done the same for her. "Because once," she replied, "someone found me sitting exactly where you are." The young man accepted the cinnamon roll, and hope quietly returned to his eyes. Standing nearby, Jacob watched with pride while Lily, now a little older, whispered, "Daddy, she's doing what we did." Jacob smiled beneath his weathered cowboy hat. "No," he answered softly. "She's doing something even better. She's making sure kindness never ends." As the evening sun painted the sky with shades of gold and crimson, Emily realized that losing everything had never been the end of her story. It had simply led her to the place where she would finally find a family, a purpose, and a home. Sometimes life closes every door not to punish us, but to guide us toward the one door we never imagined opening. And on a lonely station platform where all hope seemed lost, one rancher and his little girl proved that a single act of kindness can change not just one life, but generations to come. Subscribe to my channel.